I want to ask you about Hillary Clinton. On Friday, she released a whole bunch of information about her tax returns. There was a letter about her health. What was that about?
Well, I think, as Ron said, this perception of her not being transparent, which I think is not just a media narrative, it's a fact that the Clintons, especially Hillary, are very guarded, very secretive people, and this has erupted into multiple controversies, including the email scandal, and so they realize that's hurting them, and they're trying to present a sort of charade of transparency, I think, by releasing some of this stuff and trying to seem upfront about it, trying to seem as if she is actually being more forthcoming with some of the information that I think would have to come out eventually. So her taxes, for example, as you mentioned before, showing that she paid about a 35% tax rate on a whole lot of income, $28 million in the last year. So this is a perception that I think she's finally starting to try to attack.
Ron, one thing I want to ask you about, she also did on Friday, and we'll listen to a clip of her here now. She took on Jeb Bush in a speech on Friday.
They can't rise if the minimum wage is too low to live on. They can't rise if their governor makes it harder for them to get a college education. And you cannot seriously talk about the right to rise and support laws that deny the right to vote.
So, Ron, Hillary Clinton there using Right to Rise, which is the name of the Jeb Bush PAC. The governor she's talking about is Jeb Bush. Why take on Jeb Bush?
Because she thinks he's going to run for president again. The Jeb Bush campaign whined about that attack. They were caught off guard. I actually think, hey, you know, all's fair in love and war. I thought it was a good attack. What bothered me about Hillary Clinton last week was another attack she took, actually a much more effective and disingenuous one, against the New York Times. The New York Times wrote a story last week about a new development in the email scandal, sloppily written and not very transparently corrected. If you're a media writer, a lot of reasons to criticize the New York Times. But what did they get right? 2 IGs have asked the Department of Justice to look into the fact that classified documents were found on her rules-defying, oversight-thwarting email server. This is after she said there were no classified documents. This is after she said that she hasn't violated any rules. This is after she said that she's too transparent in all this. And after she said she only did all this out of a matter of convenience. None of those statements are true. So we have some serial disingenuous behavior of the Clinton campaign, and they're trying to deflect by making this a story about the New York Times. I think there's a big story and big questions that have to be asked about what she's hiding on the emails, why she's not being transparent, and why she's not following the rules.
Yes, Dan.
Well, I want to go back to the issue of her negatives, which no doubt are in part a reflection of people's reaction to the emails and other things. I think that this is something that has to concern the Clinton campaign. I mean, they cannot take this lightly, and my assumption is that they are going to have to deal with this and perhaps deal with it fairly quickly in order to try to move people away from that. The attack on Jeb Bush, I think, is a sign that she is continuing to play to the Democratic base, that she's got Bernie Sanders at least in one eye, if not more, and that she is trying to convince Democrats that she has not just the policies, but the fight and the spirit to go after the Republicans in a way that nobody else will be able